All right, so let's go down to the final group, which is Group D, and that was I think we mentioned already, but France finished as the group winners. Belgium, the surprise runner-up, and we'll
Yeah.
get to that. Iceland finished in third. Iceland. We'll get to that
Yeah.
as well. And then Italy finished in last place. Wow. Like that first game, so we'll just go right into it, right? So that first
Yeah.
game, France versus Italy, I actually didn't watch it live because I was away. I think it was like on a Sunday or something, and I was away on
Yes.
that Sunday. And I actually didn't watch any of the games on that Sunday until much later because I was away in the morning and then I went out in the like late afternoon. So I didn't see any of the games until much later. So after that, I was literally just catching up to what everyone was saying because when I saw the scoreline, I was like, "What?" I could not believe it, and I was like, "How? How did this even happen?" So I was like trying to catch up to everyone's tweets and the messages in the Slack and everything, just trying to figure out what happened. Basically, like Norway, Italy got punched in the mouth and they couldn't recover. And the difference between them and Norway is that Norway happened in the second game.
Yeah.
Italy, it
Yeah.
happened in the first game.
Yes.
And they just could not figure out how to lift themselves from that after that. Now, full credit to France because France said, we're going to come out and we're going to like literally lay down the law on you guys. And we're going to make sure that, because everyone was saying, hey, it's going to be France and Italy, right?
Yeah.
Before the tournament started. They were like, it's going to be between those two teams. And France came in and said, we don't care about your narratives.
Yeah.
We don't care that you think Italy's the dark horse. Like, we got none of that going on. We're going to come out, we're going to dominate. So
Yes.
speaking on France's first, right? So I think everyone has talked about the wingers, Diani, Cascarino, Baltimore when she came on. Mary Antoinette Toto, who I hope recovers very, very quickly.
Yes. Please.
As they say, band
Number
knees.
9 on. Yes.
Band knees, as they say.
Yeah.
But okay, we're about to run out of time. Yeah, but I know where I'm going with it, so I'll be able to pick up straight away. But
Okay.
apart from all those people, I think the biggest joy for me watching France was Clara Matteo.
Mm-hmm.
I've genuinely enjoyed watching her midfield performances. Not because like, oh, I wasn't expecting it or whatever. No. But she's like kind of grown into that role and grown as the tournament has gone on to the point where I'm like, okay, we've got something cooking here in the France midfield. We thought that without Henri, there would be problems, but
Yeah.
it looks good. The midfield does look good.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly like, yes, Gioro has also had a great tournament and stuff like that. But really, Matteo has been like the fulcrum really that's kind of pushed France forward. So yeah, Clara Matteo has been, for me, I think when I was watching France, I knew what to expect from a lot of the players, but she's been the most surprising player for me for France, just because of how good she's been. Like, she's genuinely been great to watch, if we are being completely honest. And yes, we can talk about, like I said, the attacking players for France and how Kuchawi has been excellent at left back, like excellent. But yeah, I've genuinely enjoyed watching Clara Matteo.
Yeah, you know what's fun? I love that you said that at the beginning about France and Italy because I had the exact same thought, and that was going to be my exact same comment. Is like whatever England did to Norway, that's what France did to Italy.
Yeah.
Like just hit them in the mouth, and 5-0 by halftime, and it was like their tournament was a wrap after that because they did not ever recover. But yeah, I mean, we will again. I agree with you on the midfield. It has looked better than I thought.
Yeah.
Though we did say that in the group stages, we do think they will be fine, but there will come a point in this tournament where they are going to wish they had Amandi and Henri. And as good as Matteo has been, I actually hope that hasn't been the case because it would suck because she's had a good tournament from now on, from here on or till this point. So like, it would be frustrating to see, but it's just like far too often these decisions always come back to haunt you. So we will see what happens. But yeah, I mean, apart from looking ahead like that, I think France has been exceptional. I am very sad about Katoto's injury.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated about that. Just have so many thoughts about just players never getting a break and everybody from every federation and competition deciding that they're not taking a break on our dime. So we're going to keep running the players into the ground. That's a whole side thing. Again, band knees. I don't want anybody else to get injured.
I mean, if we're
We
talking
know
about
that-
this now, can you imagine what's going to happen when the men's season starts and the World Cup? And I'm already dreading it.
It's such a bad idea. I mean, all of this
I'm already
is just
dreading
it's just way too much. So like, yeah, but I mean, the one thing, so you mentioned Mateo, and I think that's good. But for me, Grace Guerrero has been like one of my favorite because like it's almost, I don't know if I should say this because I don't think I hope that people understand that I'm not making a one-to-one comparison, okay? But I am saying like it seems like, oh, y'all are gonna miss Mateus, making those runs from midfield and getting into the box and being direct. I'm gonna do some of that stuff, and I would put money on that at all heading into the tournament, just because we hadn't seen it to this degree before, and it's been incredible to watch. And I think to your point though, because midfield has been so locked down, it's been able to have a lot more freedom. And I think you have so many good creators on the wings. And of course, when Katoto was there, she's also very good at occupying and also reading games and distributing as well. Like she is a complete center forward. But I even think, even without her, this France team has looked good still.
Yeah.
And so I am excited about that. I hope that Guerrero can continue to kind of play that role and take those chances, because I do think that like nothing, basically across different eras of football, one of the things that is consistently the most difficult thing to deal with in attack is a late arriving midfielder. And a midfielder who knows how to make those runs, because your back line is pretty set and they understand like their job. You win these 1v1 battles, or you get help, or you block a passing lane or something. When you have to account for another entry into the box and you don't know when it's coming or from what angle, you have a problem. And so I really love that style of play. So I'm hoping to see a lot more of that, moving forward in this tournament, and hope that she can continue to build on these performances, because it is, I'm basically saying many things are the key to my heart, but basically good attacking football is kind of the key to my heart. Like y'all know me, I go crazy over goals, and it's kind of the same deal. Like I love watching that. And when you have something this unique, and I think that it is something that not many teams can replicate, and not many players have the ability or instincts to be able to do it. And she absolutely has it. And I just want to see a lot more of it, because I'm a kid at Christmas. Like I'm giddy. When I saw it against Italy, I was like, oh, she is tearing them to pieces with this. And Italy, we talked about, is a strong defensive team. And it did not matter. She found the spaces and the moments to make those runs, and they could never adjust to it. So yeah, despite Diacre's, the team has done well, played well, and given us a lot of joy. And I'm hoping to see a lot more of that going forward.
Yeah. So I would just say with a small caveat, and I guess we'll talk about it more when we get to the knockout stages. But I think the decision to bring on Sar for Katoto was a mistake.
Yeah.
And let's hope that it won't happen again, because Malad should be starting.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
Position. Correct.
That's all I want to say.
100% agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go next in the group stages, or next in that particular group, Belgium finished second.
Shock of the tournament for me.
Yeah. I mean, yes, we talk about Austria finished second in Group A, but that's not as shocking as this. Like, I did not see this coming. I didn't see it coming at all. And I just want to give a shout out to Tessa Willard and Janice Kamen, the vets on the team, who are saying, listen up, people. We have a chance on that final day. Listen, we have a chance to do something great. And I think this is the first time they qualified for the knockout stages, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. I think I saw that, yeah.
Something like that. So they had the opportunity, like other teams in their group, who we will get to put themselves into the knockout stages, and they took it.
Yeah.
Full credit to them. Full credit to them, because I did not see it coming. That's just the honest truth.
Yeah, I mean, neither did I. Kind of like what I was saying about earlier. If you saw this, I hope you put money on it, because like this, you could have got great odds. Because and it's not that we underestimated them as a team, or their capability to play as a team. It was the other teams around them. Italy, and it was Iceland. We thought
Yeah.
both of those teams were going to have better showings than they had. And if that were the case, and that both of those teams played up to their standard or got the goals that we know that they can score, then Belgium, in all honesty, doesn't move forward. But they were able to be consistent, maintain a standard of play and a style that they could keep up over 3 games, which I think is also something that's very important. Because as we talked about before with another team, like what was it, Finland, where they were just out of gas at the end?
Yeah,
I can't remember
Finland,
what team that we talked about. Yeah, it was Finland, where they didn't have a whole lot of depth, and the way that they were playing was just exhausting them. And at the end, they didn't have anything left. Belgium was able to do it against Italy when Italy really needed to get a win, and they beat them 1-0. And I think that's credit to the way that they managed the tournament, the players, but also the tournament itself. And they did it. They hung around there. They played France tough. I mean, that was only a 2-1 win by France. Yep. So it's not like they haven't yet had a performance where they've been massively outmatched. Yeah. And that's credit to them and their style of play and the way that they've been able to do it. Similar to Austria, with it being able to timely goals and solid defending. And again, I didn't expect this. So shout out to them. It's impressive. It's very impressive. I love when this kind of I like being surprised by these things, but also I'm looking at the other 2 teams what happened?
What were you doing? Speaking of those other 2 teams, we can go ahead and start talking about Iceland. Now, I don't know if you remember in the preview, but the one thing we said about Iceland, that we were if you really want to kind of bring the best out of your forward line, especially Svendon, you have to do you want to give her, the long ball, the long pass or whatever in the right spaces. Don't just punt it forward for her to run onto. And I think we were very specific about that in the preview.
We tried.
Guess what Iceland did? They did exactly that. They weren't how we were talking with Spain, that you have to have, it's not just about passing long, right? It's because even when you have pace up front, it's not about just punting it down the field and say, okay, go run after it. The ball has to be angled for it to be a great opportunity for that person to run onto the ball, right? And sorry to draw it back to the US team, but we see that with them, when the pass is just oh, go run after it, it's not as effective as if it's an angled pass to them to run.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Svendon, is that Iceland was just pumping the ball forward.
Yeah.
With no thought or care about how they should build their attack. And I get it, they spend a lot of time on the back foot, especially against France, right? In that final game where all they had to do was tie, right? No, not tie. Was it tie?
Yeah, they did tie. They needed to.
Yes, but they needed I can't remember. No, they needed Italy to.
Yeah, they needed Italy to tie Belgium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what they needed to get through. So it was fascinating watching them play against France, because it's not like France were even trying that hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
France were kind of in second gear the whole game. The fact that they drew 1-1 shows you that France wasn't really paying attention to what they were doing in that game. Yeah. So the opportunity to win the game was there for them, but they didn't take it because they decided that we're not going to be thoughtful. And, it's another thing we always talk about in attacks, right? If you want it to be a truly effective attack, it's not just about passing the ball or kicking it long so that someone can run. You have to be thoughtful about your pass. It has to be the right pass in the right space for it to become effective. And Iceland just, for whatever reason, just did not produce that. And it's weird because we've seen them in the past be able to produce the kind of football that will get them results. But for whatever reason, on that final day against France, it just disappeared. It wasn't there.
Yeah, it's almost like what we talked about with Pernilla Harder. It was the same thing for Svendon. She was just out there. They punched the ball. It was her against the world. Go hold up the ball, wait for us or whatever. But they were going to stay compact in their shape. And if there was anybody that was gonna try and threaten the back line, it was going to be her. It was going to be via a long ball. And it was just kind of frustrating to watch because she kind of deserved better service than that and a better utilization of her skills, is what I'll say. That's the frustrating thing. But also, Iceland had a weird tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Every single game was 1-1. Every single one. And then that's the France game that you talked about. Hilarious, because it was a goal at first minute and then basically the final minute. So Mallard scores in the first minute, and then what was it, 90 plus 12?
Something
is when
like
they get
that,
a
yeah.
penalty. It was something ridiculous, and that's when they get the penalty. And so it was just a weird game. So it ends up 1-1, but it's just like it's really random the way when the goals came, and it's very strange. But you know, I was frustrated about their performances because I think that they could have taken more risks,
Yeah.
and they could have played better. They have the capability to do so. The fact that every game was 1-1 means that they were in every game, and they have the ability to match up against the teams that were in their group. Like you said, even the France game came at the perfect time for them. France was
Yeah.
done. They were
Yeah.
moving on. They were fine. So that was the time for you to go out there and take those risks, and they weren't able to do it. And it is frustrating because they do have a massive talent in Svennis Jane Jonsdottir, and you want to see a talent like that cultivated in a tournament like this because it can be a massive platform. You know, we talked about like, you know, I hate to keep talking about like other competitions or whatever, but like in the CONCACAF W Championship, we saw like Melchi Dubernay for Haiti.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna have a massive move because she put on such a show, and there were so many eyes on that tournament. And I felt like, you know, and it's not like Jonsdottir is a player that's not known. She plays for Wolfsburg, right? So she's not an unknown player. But I think on the international stage, this could have been a little bit of a springboard to really cement her as one of the best, like, up and coming young players. And they have an opportunity to do so because of the way that how solid, you know, Iceland is in midfield. They have a solid, good midfield that can manage and control a game. And like you said, nobody really ran over them. You know, they weren't really overrun ever in midfield or the back line. Like, yeah, there were mistakes here and there, but, you know, again, 1-1 in every match.
Yeah.
When they look back at that, you should say, like, at some level, for at least one of those games. For me, I'd be more optimistic and say 2 of those games. But for at least one of those games, you got to be able to go out there and win it, and they just weren't able to, and it's frustrating to be honest.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think you know, Norway were disappointing in the sense that it was just a complete meltdown, and you could see it happening in real time. It was just a complete meltdown. Iceland were frustrating.
Yes.
They weren't disappointing. They were frustrating because you could see, you're like, there's more to come from this team, and it's just not happening.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, that would be my description for Iceland. I was very frustrated by their performance at the tournament, and you know, the fact that they went home on that final day where they had a gimme, right? Like we talked about, France were done. They were like, okay, you know, we'll rotate, we'll do whatever. Like, yes, they were trying to win the game, but they weren't really, really trying to win the game. Yeah. So the opportunity to swing things around, you know, was in their hands, and they just didn't take it, Iceland.
Yeah.
Just didn't take it. All right. So finally, the bottom of the group, the team that we did not expect to be bottom of the group, but Italy. And the first word I put for Italy was shocking.
Yes.
Just shocking. And I think the next thing I said was just that, kind of like Norway, there was no guidance coming from the coaching staff.
Yeah. Which was surprising.
Yeah. After that, like
surprised me.
You know, we talked about, you already touched upon it, like the fact that after that initial game against France where they got battered, completely battered, and obviously it was a shock to the system, it was a shock to the players. The coaching staff just didn't react.
Yeah.
You know, the way they tried to react was by like doing these weird tactical shifts, or like dropping like Giacinti and putting on the bench.
Yeah, I'd say as well. It was just like, why?
And you're just like, why? Why are you doing that? These are your players that make the difference. Why are you putting them on the bench? Like these just strange tactical choices to try and combat the fact that they got beat by France.
Yeah.
And you could just see, again, similar to like Norway, you could just see meltdowns happening in real time. And it's you know, someone once said something interesting, like it's in basically in other sports, it's hard to see when a team is melting down.
Yeah. Like
it's really difficult, like in basketball and stuff like that. It's not as straightforward to see when a team is melting down. You can, if you know the sport really well, then you can tell. You can be like, oh yeah, these guys are done. They've got nothing mentally, physically. They're done. They're not coming back to this. Football is the one sport where you can see it clear as day.
Yes. Yes.
It's there because, you know, football, you have to like run around a lot. You have to, the willingness for you to like close down, to run, to pass, to run into space, all those kind of things, right? If a team is gone mentally, it's so obvious. And Italy, from like after that game against France, the next game against the next game against Iceland, the next game against Belgium, I could not see them coming back at all. No matter
Yeah.
what they tried, I couldn't see them. Whether it was like trying a different attacking style, whether it was trying to defend slightly differently, because you could see all these like weird tactical choices that they were making, but nothing was working. And I could see in their players, like just physically in their whole demeanor, that even
Mhm.
the players didn't think they could come back from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a that's a great point. I think you made that like when a team is struggling, you really get to see it. I think in individual sports, it's similar to me in like tennis. Like when a
Yeah,
tennis player is struggling, it's almost painful to watch. Like it's almost like if you have like a drop of empathy in you, you just want them to be in the locker room. You're like
yeah,
just like blow the whistle, it's over.
yeah.
And I
Stop the
think that
count.
yeah, exactly like that's enough. But like and I think Italy had two issues. We talked about the France game and how just getting hit in the mouth like that was bad. But I think the coaching staff compounded it with their reaction. I think their reaction to it was way too severe. They tried to overcorrect with things, like you said, dropping Giacinti and
I'm saying,
Bonansea
yeah,
and all that as well. It's just like those are players that you've relied on a lot, and the fact that they can be dropped over one game and one performance, and against a team like France, like it's okay. Like France, from time to time, when they get things right, as talented as they are, they can do that to somebody. Like completely, to be completely honest, like yes, would it be surprising if and I'm not skipping ahead or anything, but I'm just saying like how many teams would it truly be shocking that France beat like 5-1? Not that many.
yeah,
Like you think about it, not that many teams. Like that France team is supremely talented. And
yeah,
so to react to it that way at the beginning of a competition just really unsettled the team. So I think they really compounded it. The players were already feeling down, and then all these changes come, and then you're messing around like, who are your leaders on the pitch? If they're not on the pitch, then what do you do? Who's stepping up? Who's doing what? How does this change? The entire, who they relied on to get there, they're no longer there in the middle of a tournament where now the pressure's really on to get points, and they weren't able to do that. And I think that culminated in the game versus Belgium
yeah.
at the very end,
Oh
where
yeah,
they're trying and trying and trying. I mean, 20 shots, 6 on target, like they're trying and trying and trying, but they cannot get the goal. And then of course Belgium scores, and it's a wrap.
yeah,
And it's just like, to me, that was frustrating to watch because was it a collapse? Sure. Like you expect the Italy team that we had seen, you don't expect them to play as poorly as they did. I mean, 5-0 at halftime to France is bad.
mm-hmm.
Like 5-0 at halftime to just about anybody is bad, especially for a team that prides itself on being defensively sound or resolute at least, or being able to put up a measure of opposition to the other team. So like, yes, that is bad. There's no like sugarcoating that, but your reaction to that has to be better. And it
Yeah,
cannot be that like you get rid of all the players who got you there and you create even more instability than the loss already cost. So, or the performance already cost as well, because they were not set up. They were not tactically, they weren't prepared for that game and what France was doing.
oh yeah,
And that was clear.
yeah,
And so that was the other problem. It's like, so they lost confidence in a lot of things. And then the coaching staff put it on other players and tried to call on other players, and they weren't ready either. So they just compounded the problem. And so like, yeah, I mean, again, that's another frustrating result, not just because, we thought that they had a chance to be like a dark horse. I saw that like multiple previews had them as a dark horse.
yep.
They're talented enough to do it and composed enough to do it.
A lot of people
And
just like scrap their previews, just like
yeah, exactly. It was like, okay, well, never mind then. Hey, we're gonna have to find another dark horse, because we thought Italy had come farther than that. And
yeah,
to be honest, they weren't able to show it. And I think a lot of that is the coaching staff and the position they put the players in.
yeah. And I think if anyone wants to kind of figure out how Italians in Italy were viewing the team and stuff like that, Jenna Tonelli also dropped a piece today
Yes.
on All4XI. So go ahead and read that. That's really important because she was in Italy during most of the tournament, like most of the
Yeah.
group stages, sorry. So she was able to like gauge how the locals were feeling and stuff like that. And she's got Italian roots, so she knows all about supporting Italian teams and how they can break your heart. And yeah, so if you want to really kind of get a good feel for Italy, and just even what Andre was saying in the sense that they're a good team, and this tournament is not an indictment of how good they are. They are better than what they showed, and that piece will kind of spell that out for you as well. So yeah, check that out.